Nietzsche is one great philosopher who impacted Iqbal. Okay. He may have impacted him partly because Iqbal had similar ideas. But reading Nietzsche definitely made Iqbal reflect on his ideas, consolidate his viewpoint, and he looked at Islam from Nietzsche's philosophy, Islam plus Nietzsche philosophy. Okay. And then he makes certain important proposals regarding what went wrong with Islam. Okay. So how did he do this? First, let us see what Nietzsche's philosophy is, and then what modifications did Iqbal make to this. Nietzsche's philosophy is based on his understanding of Darwinism. He thought Darwinism as a survival of the strong. Okay. This strong is seen as will to power, strong desire to achieve things, aggression, warfare, ready to fight. Because in the fight for survival, longer-necked giraffe won, because longer-necked one got food and did not share with others. So Nietzsche was against compassion, kindness, weakness. Okay. And because Christianity represented compassion, kindness, kingdom of God belonging to meek and the weak, he was critical of Christianity. So he thought Christianity taught wrong values. And interestingly, Nietzsche preferred Islam to Christianity, because Nietzsche thought Islam taught the values that were needed for strength and survival, masculine qualities. Okay. And Iqbal reflected on these issues. But then, like revelation, intuition, okay. So, Iqbal believed that a Muslim should be a perfect man. Khudi. Okay. So he made a modification to Nietzsche's Superman. Okay. These are the things. Iqbal doesn't agree with everything of Nietzsche. He wants Nietzsche's glorification of power, strength, ready to fight. Okay. But Iqbal is not happy. Nietzsche's position of God is dead. Iqbal thinks God is there very much. Okay. And God-like qualities man should have. Maybe sacrifice, maybe kindness, compassion. And Nietzsche gave the concept of Superman with ideal qualities that he glorifies, whereas Iqbal rejects the idea of Superman and he gives the idea of perfect man. Perfect man is an English equivalent to what Iqbal coined Khudi. So, Iqbal's perfect man has certain God-like attributes, not simply aggressive. Okay. And Nietzsche's Superman may believe only in reason, but perfect man knows there are other ways of knowing. I am taking this content from this article, from Reconstructing the Muslim Self, Muhammad Iqbal, Khudi and Modern Self by Hassan Azad, published in Islamophobia Journal, Fall 2014. And this is what Nietzsche said on Christianity. Christianity destroyed for us the whole harvest of ancient civilization, and later it also destroyed for us the whole harvest of Mohammedan civilization. And Nietzsche was unhappy about this. And there should be no choice in the matter when faced with Islam and Christianity. War to the knife with Rome and peace and friendship with Islam. He preferred Islam because he prefers power. Okay. And not kindness. Okay. So now Iqbal says, after these modifications to Nietzsche's Superman, Iqbal says that man should be God's agent on earth. Okay. He is not a godless man, God's agent on earth. So, what is meant by God's agent on earth? Iqbal has the idea, of course, not only Iqbal, but most people equate God first with power. Okay, strength. And of course, God has kindness. God is just. God knows. God punishes. But He definitely punishes the unjust. And God is not prejudiced. Okay. So, man should be like God's agent on earth. Okay. This is what Iqbal thought. Okay. We may think, so what? What does this have to do with contemporary problems that Islam was facing? I mean, why is this issue of perfect man, Khudi, important in the context of Islam? Okay. Here, Iqbal is making one very important point. Iqbal thinks that Muslim, instead of trying to be a perfect man, instead of making perfect man as an ideal, he made somebody else as an ideal, that is Sufi. And what is Sufism? Egolessness, ego lost, ego merged with God, oneness with God. So, Sufi wants to lose ego, and this as the highest principle. And loss of ego means loss of desire. Making a person quite happy, contented. Okay. So, Islam made Sufi as the ideal rather than perfect man. And Iqbal thinks this is the reason for the downfall of Islam. Iqbal thinks in the beginning it was perfect man only who was glorified. In the beginning, Prophet was of course a messenger first, but he is also God's agent. He wanted others to emulate him. He didn't want to lose his ego. He was not one with God. So early Islam believed in perfect man, believed in people becoming emulating prophet, except the idea that he is the messenger and so nobody else is the messenger. But these ideals were lost and people started glorifying Sufism, and with this decline of Islam started. So this is Iqbal's idea. You can very clearly see Nietzsche's influence, but some spirituality added to Nietzsche, and very clearly against Sufism. Okay, so let us see what he said. Okay. This is what he said. Man is vicegerent on earth. Man becomes unique by becoming more and more like the most unique individual, God. He executes the command of Allah in the world. Okay, he is becoming like God but not God. He executes the command of Allah but not Allah. He is active and yet religious. He is God's servant. Okay. So, Iqbal wants, as a God's servant, establish God's rule. Okay. And otherwise, he thinks you're not going anywhere. And he equated with Sufism as some kind of inaction. Let us see what he has to say. Life is latent in seeking. Life exists in seeking. A Sufi doesn't seek. Its origin is hidden in desire. A Sufi is not supposed to have desires. Keep desire alive in thine heart, lest thy little dust become a tomb. Negation of desire is death to living. Even an absence of heat extinguishes the flame. It's exactly like Nietzsche's. And personality is the state of tension and can continue only if that state is maintained. Tension. A Sufi has no tension. Since the personality or the state of tension is the most valuable achievement of man, he should see that he doesn't revert to a state of relaxation. Men of God don't become God, but they are never separated from God. Okay. So, he is taking Nietzsche, but adding that he is not separated from God. So, what do you make of this? Basically, I would say Iqbal doesn't really understand, I would say, certain really higher things in life. Iqbal's mind I rate very ordinary. But after reading so much, if it remains ordinary, I would say it is very primitive. Why do I say like this? It is like this. See, Iqbal doesn't understand these things. Number one, you achieve, you have pleasure, you have joy. But this is one kind. But you know, there is joy even when you don't achieve, joy even when you don't. Iqbal doesn't see this is a higher kind. Even when you lose, because you are not seeking an approval, acceptance through achievement. You don't need others' approval. You have accepted yourself. So Iqbal finds it difficult to understand something like this. I mean, one may say that, so what is the source of achievement? What is the source of action then if you are not willing to lose, if you are not willing to achieve? It is not a question of willing to, not willing to achieve. You try, but even if you don't, you remain the same. Iqbal doesn't seem to be getting it. And the same is true of character. You think you are good, you are happy. But do you know, real happiness, Iqbal may be shocked that when you don't mind being bad, then also you are happy. Don't mind being bad, not guilty. So there is a higher functioning of the self. What matters is not that ego merges with God or ego is God. It is not like that. It is not just that. It is about acceptance, self-acceptance. It is about calmness. Okay. If Sufism is popular the world over, it is because it has these truths. Man is always searching to prove to others he is like that, like this. But Sufism is not about proving to others. It is a inner search for a harmonious relationship with oneself. So Iqbal thinks that all that what is actually higher thing makes people inactive, and so he wants people in a state of tension and desire. That is not the way an evolved person should think. So This is what Iqbal said. It taught the doctrine of oneness of being, Wahadat al-Uzad, was for dissolution of self, which is also called Fana, which meant no concern with action, achievement, which is the reason for the downfall of Islam. And then Iqbal thinks, so look at this. The mystic doesn't wish to return from the repose of unitary experience, and even when he does return, as he must, his return does not mean for much for mankind at large. The Prophet's return is creative. He returns to insert himself into the sweep of time with a view to controlling forces of history and thereby a fresh world of ideals. So a prophet comes to shape history, whereas Sufi is inactive. But this is not true. How about Buddha? Buddha realized but impacted the world. Many Sufis impacted the world. The way Prophet impacted is one kind, the way Sufis impacted is another kind. So impacting to Iqbal is establishing empires. It is not like that. It is about you impact the people to lead a happier and healthier lives. And Iqbal had certain views on certain Sufi saints. For example, Mansur al-Halaj, he is the one who said, Ana al-Haq, I am the truth. This I am the truth is a very common statement in Hindu Buddhist literature, because being oneness with God and egolessness is a constant theme in Hinduism and Buddhism. But when this man said it was considered a blasphemy and he was persecuted. But Iqbal says, I am the truth did not mean egolessness. He said, I am the truth is misinterpreted. The true interpretation is not the drop slipping into the ocean, but the realization and bold affirmation in an undying phrase of the reality and performance of the human ego in a profounder personality. So, I am the truth to Iqbal meant I have perfect ego. So he says Al-Halaj was misunderstood, and he had different views on Rumi and Hafiz. But anyway, he thinks that this entire ego dissolution school came from Ibn Arabi between 1165 and 1240 and his school of thought. So it is basically from 12th century onwards. Okay. And he thinks that Sufism of Rumi is active, but Sufism of Hafiz is inactive. So he takes Rumi as his spiritual guide, whereas he has intense dislike of Hafiz. And incidentally, Tagore is said to have been very much impacted by Hafiz philosophy. So this is what he said on Hafiz. Beware of Hafiz the drinker, his cup is full of poison of death. He is a Muslim, but his belief wears the thread of an unbeliever. It's a very serious statement. His proposition is nothing but heresy. He is a sheep and yet has learned to sing. So what he wrote became very, very controversial, and finally this poem is dropped from the book. But it didn't mean that Iqbal changed his opinion. His fascination is a poison, that is all. He gives weakness the name, this is the point. He gives the weakness the name of the strength. Okay. Nietzsche thought of Jesus also in the same way. Jesus was glorifying the weakness. His music leads the nation astray. His congregation is not for the pious. His cup is not for the ingenious ones. Beware of Hafiz and don't be sheep. So he is a sheep. Okay. So we can't simply praise Iqbal and then say he's a great poet and he influenced people, this. We have to pay attention to what is the point he was trying to make and whether that point was right. Okay, it is easy to say he is also a great poet and he contributed a lot, but why he liked Rumi and why he hated Hafiz, and what was the point that Iqbal was making? Okay. So these are Iqbal's views on Sufism, and we will examine whether actually Sufism was responsible for the fall of Islam.